To go on another adventure. I even thought about recording a bit here earlier, but I was really tired. I hate these early morning flights. It's going to take off at 5:25 a.m. I think, which essentially means I haven't slept anything. It was actually a rather sad situation at the airport. Scores of people just laying down at the benches. It was rather depressing. It wasn't even interesting. So, see you in about 7 hours and we shall start season 2. Ciao, hasta luego. Buenos dias, welcome to Panama. So, as soon as we get a more beautiful, interesting vista, perhaps by the sea, I'll explain exactly what I'm doing here. But let me talk about the flight first. I would say an economy class Copa Airlines trip was fair enough. I'll give it like a 6 out of 10, slightly above average. On the positive, it was certainly much better than the trip I made to the Netherlands last year on ITA Airways. That one was a horror show. My entertainment system wasn't working on the way back, and the crew wasn't exactly interested in fixing it, and they charge you extra to just choose the seats, and it's a very large amount. Not here. Here it was pretty reasonable with like the basic okay, disembark here, okay, thank you. With the basic economy fare, you get to choose your seats, which I think is pretty reasonable. Not sure which costs are involved with choosing your seat, so it was pretty reasonable, worked well enough. And also the food was edible, but then again the food on ITA Airways wasn't that great either. And if there's one thing I would expect to be great from an Italian company, it would be the food. One of the flight attendants commented on my eyes, so I'll cut the crew some slack. Do I have to? Okay, I guess I have to stop recording already now and keep it later. Here I am. I'm going to keep talking here. It will be rather unusual because I'm literally at like the entrance of the airport, but I've never seen an airport like speed people into the streets so quickly. I was just disembarking on the plane and then I literally just got into passport control and then collecting bags, and all of a sudden I was here. So I thought I would have to walk a long path inside there, and that's not what happened, so I couldn't finish my story. So as I was saying, back last year I took ITA Airways and it was kind of bad. The entertainment system wasn't working, the crew wasn't really interested in helping me, and they charge a very significant amount to like change your seats. I can't prove it, but it sure looks like it. They intentionally assign you a middle seat, not an aisle or window seat, to force you to change. And if you want to change, it's like 25% of the full price of the ticket. So if you paid like $1,000, I paid $250 just to change your seat. It's really bad. Didn't happen here. Now, on the plus, the crew was kind of nice. Like I said, I'm going to cut them some slack because I could just call an Uber, but what would be the fun of that? So yes, I'm taking the metro. After all, that's part of the reason I'm doing this again here in Panama, because it's so fun, this like adventure aspect of it. So I asked it how to get to the subway. The place here is kind of poorly signaled. I had to ask, there aren't any signals showing like subway that way. But on the negative side of my flight, the plane was relatively simple. It was a narrow jet, not a narrow body jet, so a single aisle. And I'm not sure whether that's because it's a narrow body jet, there are few restrooms, or simply because there was some problem with the restrooms, but the lines to go to the bathroom were like enormous. We were getting like 10, 12 people lining up to go to the bathroom at once. And when the trolley with the food moved towards the front to start giving people food, everyone was in the aisle. No, thank you. No, thank you. All set. When the trolley moved, everyone, the 12 people who were in line had to give way. That part wasn't very good. Once again, USB ports are like our mortal enemy. Airlines nowadays are kind of getting practically paranoid about power banks. And so they say that you should never, under any circumstance, use a power bank or charge a power bank within the plane. Because of course you can use the USB to charge your phone. And we also had, I'm going to cut here, it's getting really hard to record here. Okay, so I got to the metro, but I think I miscalculated here. I should have taken an Uber. I have to change subway 3 times. I didn't anticipate that. But come on, I can't finish my story. Stop interrupting me, circumstances. So once again, my USB jack wasn't working on my seat, and they say, well, you shouldn't use your power bank because they are dangerous and you don't need to. You have a USB stick to charge your phone or your seat. And by the way, there's no entertainment on board, because why would you need it? You can watch it on your phone. But I mean, there is no entertainment. I'm supposed to watch it on my phone. I can't use the power bank and my USB is not working. How the hell am I supposed to keep my phone charged? So yes, those kinds of problems are really recurring. And okay, since you're arriving, it's hot. It's really hot. My very first impressions of the country, and I do mean very first because I arrived like 15 minutes ago. 2 things so far have drawn my attention a bit. The first is that English literacy here is really low. In the Netherlands, for example, it was easier. I speak Portuguese, which to some degree is mutually intelligible with Spanish, but very few people here speak English, even at the airport. If you need to ask, for example, for directions, even people at the counter for information usually speak very little English. So I'm feeling this a bit here. And I'm from a similar language. I speak Portuguese, which is usually intelligible, but all announcements are made in Spanish, never in English. All signals are in Spanish. So even as a Portuguese speaker, I feel it a bit. The second aspect is that the airport was pretty straightforward. I disembarked in like 10 minutes less than that. I was out of the place, albeit it took a long while to get out of the plane. They held us like 20 minutes inside the plane before they allowed us to disembark. But once we get outside the plane, it was like 10 minutes to go through customs and the police and collect my bag, which was already waiting there. And everyone was really polite and nice. I can't say anything bad about the officers themselves. But there are some very serious like privacy concerns here. For example, just to enter the country, I got all my fingertips taken. That's a bit invasive, and it's the sort of thing I would hold against the country. I was also asked if I was a dog sniffing my back, and so I got all my fingertips taken. I had to give information about where I was going to stay. A dog sniffed my bag. I was asked if I was transporting any drugs, and all the bags had to go through X-ray to exit the airport. I can definitely understand why bags would go under X-ray to enter the plane, to see if we're not transporting, for example, explosives. But if the bags are coming out of the plane, they've already been scanned. I've never seen it. I had never seen it before. To scan the bags of the disembarking passenger. And so I do take some serious offense to it. You can argue that it's pointless, but I personally don't like being asked if I'm transporting drugs. I think, they ask that to everyone. Well, perhaps everyone should take offense. I think it's quite disrespectful to ask something like that. And so it's the sort of thing that I will hold against the country, and that subtracts at least a point from Panama to me. After all, this is pretty much the reason I gave up on the United States. I don't want any trouble. I don't want to be bothered. And you can argue that it's like this everywhere, and I will argue that no, it isn't. Nobody asked me any questions or collect my fingertips or sniff my bag or scan my bag in either the Netherlands or the UAE or many other places I visited. So from this point of view, Panama is objectively worse. Okay, if I was looking for adventure, I'm definitely getting it. It could have been worse. Nothing like getting to know the local transit system. My second time changing subways here, but I mean, kind of works. Like I said, most signaling is not very intuitive. Can't figure it out. Okay, it was fun enough, I guess, for the people there. Hello. I'm from Brazil.
Brazil, yeah.
Do you want to say hello?
No.
Bienvenido. Your names?
Isabel y Walter. Walter, Isabel.
Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Have a nice day as well. Goodbye. So it was fun enough, I guess. If I was one of the people that actually take it every day, I wouldn't find the chess fun. But for me, once it was interesting. And besides, if I had taken an Uber, I wouldn't have this sort of contact with people. I got here. Don't do it. Call an Uber. Unless you want to end up like me. It reminds me a lot of when I lived in Rio de Janeiro. The problem was not the subway. The problem is that streets here, at least in the neighborhood I am, don't have signs. So we have no idea which street we're on. And I ended up walking the wrong direction. I ended up walking like 3 kilometers, dragging my suitcase. And the sidewalks are kept in terrible, abysmal condition. I think I have actually ruined a suitcase. So a pattern is emerging here. Panama may be a country of great beauty, but it's not a country of great infrastructure. Signs are lacking, the sidewalks are bad, the streets are bad. Don't do it. Don't go to the subway, don't walk. Call an Uber. Hello, finally, some a respite of it all. At least now I'm okay. At least now I'm a...
My company.
Oh, okay. Alejandro has been very kind to me here. I asked if he could record in his car. As usual, he's a bit shy, but his company, now Panama Air Transfers and Tours, I'm going to cite you. He even opened the roof here so I could have a nice view upwards. But he has indeed been very kind to me. And I also have to say that Uber comfort in Panama tends to be better than in Brazil. The average level of the cars from what I'm getting. But finally some respite, at least now in some comfort. This first day has been a bit eventful. I said that I chose to come here through the subway, and the subway itself wasn't a problem, but I ruined my suitcase by walking here because the streets, the calles, do not have signs to tell which street you are on. And of course you could say, why don't you look on your phone, on your map? Yes, if I already had a SIM from Panama, it's one of the things I meant to do here today. And I could have called an Uber back there, but once I was in the airport, I had internet, but once I was in the street, then I was pretty much locked into this decision. That was the one option I had, and I did succeed. But what also contributed is I definitely did not expect this neighborhood to be so hilly. There are a lot of very steep streets here at Cangrejo, and so this first day, as is usual with most trips, is meant for getting things sorted out, buying like water, shampoo and conditioning. I don't like the very small ones soap most hotels give. And specifically today, buying also a microphone. I've been trying to buy more like professional mic for a while now to get rid of the wind problem, while also not losing much of the ambience, for example the sea. And perhaps also buy a new phone, which is something I had been postponing for a while. So today I had to buy and seek a lot of things, and I still don't have a SIM card here. There seems to be two major ones, Tigo and Movil. They say that Movil has 5G coverage and also a bit of coverage in São Paulo, and Tigo doesn't. Not really sure. I tried getting to sort things out here in El Cangrejo, but things are a bit hidden. I'm not sure how to explain, but you can't really see where the stores are. It's hard to find stores unless you know specifically what store you're looking for and where it is. So one of the solutions here has been to go to the Multiplaza, one of the larger malls of the city, and this is probably going to be the last thing I'm going to do today, because I'm pretty much exhausted from not sleeping very much last night. When I arrived at GRU Airport last night, it was almost like a depressing scene. Because there were scores of people just laying down on the most uncomfortable benches, completely contorted in awkward positions everywhere, all around, trying to sleep while they waited for their flights in early morning. And kind of I was one of them, except I did not sleep because I was alone and I didn't want to risk losing the flight. But it was almost sad to see. It was like this everywhere, all around that terminal. It's kind of the exact opposite of glamorous. And so I did decide to try. I said, well, maybe I can escape from this dismal feel by going into one of the lounges. So I went to the Visa lounge. They like to call them VIP rooms in Brazil. Doesn't really matter. Was it worth it? No. I mean, there was, I went like at 1 a.m. and stayed until like 3:30 a.m., something like this. So they were serving what was kind of a breakfast, and they had like eggs and some fruit salad, and also some actual salad. I ate a lot of grape tomatoes there. They had bread and ham and cheese, but I would say it was like equivalent to a 2-star hotel breakfast, a rather simple breakfast, whereas the entrance into the place cost, I think, 37 or 35 US dollars. Now, you could argue that 35 US dollars is not that much for a breakfast. And sure, I definitely agree in the United States. But in Brazil, $35 is enough to pay like the breakfast of the best 5-star hotel in the city. So it was not equivalent to the price. Besides that, because of course we're not paying just for the food, the place was okay. It was a bit more private and a bit more comfort than the general areas of the airport. You do get a bit more privacy for sleeping. You won't be one of the bodies lining the corridors. You at least get a bit more privacy and chairs that are a bit more comfortable. But even then, I just sat, like I said, I wasn't going to sleep. But when I arrived there, there was like a recess of the room, kind of some alcoves, and there were large armchairs there, and people joining 2 armchairs together to make kind of a small bed. And they had gotten a decent way of sleeping. And while I was there, one of the employees came and woke everyone up and complained they weren't allowed to do that. And I mean, okay, he was polite, I guess, but I mean, even in the lounge, you weren't allowed to have like a true bed to actually lay down and rest. So yes, it's a bit more comfortable, but the cost proposition is so-so. For the same price, you could just eat at a restaurant and stay at the restaurant somewhere else in the airport. Even considering the fact that almost everything at the airport is overpriced. And I also drank so much coffee there, I was afraid I would get pyrosis or dyspepsia today throughout the day. Like I said, I didn't want to sleep before my flight. I personally kind of regretted taking a flight so early at 5:25 a.m. because it required me to get to the airport on the previous night, meaning that essentially I'm guaranteed not to sleep. However, there was a silver lining to it all, which is the fact that during my flight with Copa Airlines, I did not have any kind of onboard entertainment system. The little screen we watch new movies on while we make long trips, and so I had a 7-hour flight with practically no entertainment, and I slept most of it because I hadn't slept anything on the previous night. So from this specific point of view, there's always a silver lining. In these trips, it's very often something will be not very good, but from this point of view, it actually works. And to end this particular video, for once I'm a bit more comfortable here, sitting comfortably in the air conditioning. Hasn't been much of that today. One thing I've already learned about Panama City is that traffic here is very significant. I am going to a place that's like 5 kilometers away from the hostel I was, and it's probably going to take half an hour. So yes, large city, much like São Paulo, Rio, perhaps even worse in this central region. This is Multiplaza Mall. It's kind of their mini Dubai Mall. It's the more high-scale mall in the center of the city. I made a massive breakthrough recently in like the past 30 minutes. I don't speak decent Spanish, but Panamanians in general speak poor English. I was feeling even a bit lonely with a severe barrier of communication. I can't even explain what I want. For example, if I go to a store and try to buy something, they respond much better if you speak in their language. Yo me llamo Ricardo, yo no soy panameño por supuesto, pero yo puedo tentar explicar lo que quiero. It's ridiculous, but it works better than speaking good English. It's like a cheat code. If you speak any modicum of Spanish, any tiny amount, if you're taking like Duolingo lessons in Spanish, try to speak it. They respond much better and understand better what you want than if you speak, frankly, good English.